Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yes. My name is Hasti Tarekat. I'm the moderator for the discussions. And we would like to have discussions by asking some comments from experts of industrial heritage. The first comments I would welcome from Kai Weise. He's the chairperson of ICOMOS Nepal. So please, Kai, could you please share your comments about the presentations that we have heard about establishment of industrial heritage network and gynecology in Asia? Please.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you at least. I don't know the others. I hope so.
That's wonderful. So I was a bit worried about the connection.
Yeah.
So,
how is Nepal?
that I'll be able to comment on.
Yes, I can hear you. At least I don't know the others. I hope so.
Okay. Wonderful presentations. Thank you very much. I had written down lots of comments. I'll just go through some of the main points, but I think there would be a lot of things to discuss on the things that were presented.
Yes.
I'd just like to first of all start by mentioning that I'm of course from ICOMOS Nepal, and we've been working on an inventory for the 19th and 20th century architectural but also industrial heritage, and we've been sort of trying to figure out, you know, what is that link between that sort of 20th century architecture and the industrial side. So I think they're very close links between the two. And even though, as Alex mentioned, you know, we have different scientific committees in ICOMOS dealing with these subjects, I think a lot of it links together. And I think this is, again, something that we need to work together on. Again, this is a topic in itself to discuss, so I shall move on. In connection with some other work that I've been doing, I was very much involved in the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway, which is a World Heritage Site, the second railway to be put on. Again, a discussion on itself, and I think, again, this is also something that Paul is very much involved in with the railways I think, again, these are really interesting issues that can be discussed. Now, if we look at these industrial sites, I think, as was mentioned, you know, these are systems, and we cannot just look at individual points within the system. And often very linear. We have, you know, like production, you know, the raw materials being brought in, the processing of these, and then the distribution. So these are linear systems. And I think we need to understand these as linear systems. And this is, of course, interesting because very often the linear systems might be very small, you know, within a factory, but it could also be global. And I think these are the interesting aspects which we really need to look at, which was, again, explained in the presentations. I found that very interesting. We just need to keep that in mind. The other aspect which really came up and which was also mentioned by in the presentation from Japan, Daijiro-san mentioned this link between you know, the traditional, modern, West, East, global, local, the scales, and I think which was also mentioned, you know, sort of the categories of high tech, sort of the colonial, which is sort of that link of being, you know, the introduction from the West into Asia, and then the local traditional. And here the question arises, what is industrial? Especially since we look at industrialization as something that happened recently, but we had industries historically as well. And for me, it's very important because in Nepal, we didn't go through an industrialization because we were not colonized. So we have this history of industry locally. We have a bit of influence of small things coming in, like we have some bridges and we have things brought in from Scotland, produced there and, sort of used here, but the production itself was not here. So again, the whole definition aspect is also something very interesting that might need to be looked into more in detail of how we deal with this. But again, that interchange of knowledge and techniques throughout the globe. I mean, this is something where globalization happens through this, and I think again the presentation from the Japanese examples, you take an idea, you improve it, and then you adapt it to the site. So you have sort of the local condition. It's not the same, so you have to adapt it. You have some failures, but then often you also have even better solutions coming out of this adaptation to a new site. And I think what is really important here is to understand the stories, sort of the history, and because it's so complex and there's so many aspects coming in, so that story is very important. And also, of course, it makes it exciting for everyone, even those who are not, technically involved. If there's a story to it, then many more people are interested in it. So we look at the different scales. So we, from small industries to large factories to regional planning, infrastructure, to global linkages. And I think in connection with these different scales, and especially with the global aspect, Alex provided the information on what these global platforms are and how this all can sort of come together. We of course have sort of World Heritage. And one of the interesting ones is, of course, the Silk Road and how World Heritage had to adapt to include these kind of things. I mean, even with the DHR working on, the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway, World Heritage isn't quite adapted to it. And I think we still need to look at, how does the system really, of the concept of World Heritage need to deal with a site like a railway or, a global system. And of course, here, Alex mentioned UNESCO, ICOMOS, ICOM. We have, the others, IFLA and ICA and the Blue Shield and IUCN. And I mean, there's a whole network of international organizations working on cultural heritage with different focuses. But again, one sort of last thing that I wanted to mention is for our Asian network, how are we going to work together with, let's say, the new Scientific Committee for Industrial Heritage of ICOMOS, TICI? I think there's already, TICI was the advisory body for the World Heritage for Industrial Heritage. Now we have a scientific committee within ICOMOS. We need to work together. I think, it's not a question of us and them and, who's responsible for what. I think we need to really work together. And a lot of us are ICOMOS members, so a lot of us are TICI members, and now we are also Asian heritage, network of industrial heritage. So we have different connections within ourselves, but we need to really understand how to bring it all together and work together on this. And I think some of the comments that are made already lead towards this. But I think we need to work on communication. I think that's one of the big aspects, and bringing people together to work on this. I think the first steps have been made, in connection with our the different discussions we've had with the working groups and the different categories what we're going to look at. I think we just need to continue moving forward. I think we've done some very good work, and I think we are moving in the right direction. And I congratulate all those working to achieve this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kai. It helps us, I think, to have an overview about all presentations. And for other experts who join me now, Paul Mahoney from New Zealand and Monsieur Joshi from India. You are welcome to give comment later. Now, I have a questions from the audience for Professor Xiaowei. One of the audience asked you, what is the most important values of industrial heritage in Taiwan? Could you please give a brief answer to that, Professor Xiaowei? Welcome.
Sorry, can you repeat again? I didn't get it very well.
Yeah, the questions is, what is the most important values of industrial heritage in Taiwan?
The most important values.
Yes, yeah, it's rather general questions from the audience.
Okay, I think the most important value of industrial heritage is actually lead to the development of the country and the society. For example, earlier we give example about the sugar industry. Many of the town and the development are based on this industry. So, for example, like the Huwei sugar factory, because of the sugar factory, then we start to have a town planning, accommodation, and so on. So it's very close combined with our development of the country. So I think in terms of the value, it's the foundation for a whole country's development. Yeah, and this is one hand. On the other hand, I think it's also a lot related to our common life. I mean, like normal people's life. Industrial heritage is not like this kind of very elite heritage. This is part of our life. Therefore,
Okay, so probably there is an internet problem in Taipei. Well, oh, okay, now you are on again, please. Yes, we just miss you maybe for a few seconds. You can continue now.
okay. Basically, the value is part of a whole country's development, related to people's life and society's development. So it is very important for a country to worship their or cherish their industrial heritage, because you can see back how the development of the country is and how the people's life and economic has been grown. Yeah.
Okay. There is a second question, which is more related to the current situation now, because the questions is, digitalization is an important issue during the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic. What will ANI do to cooperate with other organizations and professionals under these current global situations? So besides the speakers, I also welcome the experts here, Kai, Mosri, and Paul, to also respond to this. So what is the role of ANI in these pandemic situations related to digitalizations? So those are keywords. It might help just to think about the situation locally in your place and then see maybe what is the role that we can do as experts. Who wants to start? Professor Alex Yen, you are welcome. And Paul is welcome. Everybody is welcome, please.
Can I say something?
Yes. Yes, please, Professor Alex Yen.
Just yesterday, the ICOMOS scientific committee, they had already decided their main theme for the 2023 is the heritage changes. And the main issues comes from the within the 2020, the whole world being influenced by the climate change, COVID-19, lockdown, and the cross-border that also not only influence the society, but also the culture, but how the culture can help to the social stability or development, also an issue being considered. So maybe we can think about it. Within the past 1 year, there is a big change over the world. So the ICOMOS also highlighted indigenous heritage, nature culture journey, heritage for climate, heritage and sustainability, and digital culture heritage. There are 5 cross borders, issues that can help us to understand how the heritage can meet the change. So maybe we can border our mind that the industrial heritage and the heritage, cultural heritage are something very similar. And I like to echo the Kai just mentioned, that we have to learn not only from the outside Asia, but how to collaborate with inside Asia is very important. And actually, there are many already existed platforms there, but we always try to develop something new or something independent. But it is okay for some special purposes. We can do it, but never forget we should collaborate together. I learned a lot from Kai. I learned a lot from Paul Mahoney and some other in some other platform. So I suppose any is a platform for collaboration and to provide some services to not only input but also output to make something happen on this platform. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very word advice, Professor Alex Jens. The longer we work together, the more we realize how important the Asian ways to save industrial heritage. I have more questions for all speakers and commentators. It's about advocacy. Can ANI act collectively as a positive force to campaign for specific cases in Asia? For example, where an important industrial heritage site is under threat. So probably making a database about a kind of under threat sites. Mostly probably you have started a database for industrial heritage in India. Do you have experience how you can elevate to more global cooperations? Thank you. Please, answer.
Yeah, thank you, Hasti. The experience here has been that we're still developing the inventory, but while we are doing that, there are so many sites that are under threat, and we're losing them continuously. So really, the challenge is to have a convening organization, and this is also with reference to the previous question and the point that Kai raised about what are these multiple organizations going to do. Now we had TICI, we have ICOMOS, ISC, now we're going to have, now we have ANIH. This kind of, this heritage risk needs to be looked at through these organizations as a positive force to affect their preservation. And I think that's really something missing in Asia, where we are a collective, we're a bunch of individuals, but we don't have a convening body or an organization, which is quite a forceful thing. I mean, as you can see today, for example, to bring everybody together is a huge task. And if that conversation can be made possible by ANIH, then their role in the active preservation of sites in, even outside Taiwan and in countries in Asia will be very valuable. So I think we definitely must look at this as a responsibility within ANIH. And we should look at formulating a process through which we can intervene, because as individuals, we are aware and many of us are working in preservation of these sites. But how do we actually make that possible with using platforms like ANIH? These are the kind of conversations that need to be had. So there is a need, there's a gap, and there is a crucial role that ANIH is playing. And I think we need more time to develop these ideas.
Yeah. Connecting, yes, please, Kay.
Just a small comment on advocacy. I think we have to be very clear on when we get into advocacy and when we need to be the experts. And very often there's a bit of an issue because advocacy is very often you raise an issue. And I think we need to go in with solutions. And I think that is very important because very often we can say, oh, we need to save something, you know, something's happening, something's endangered. But it's critical as a, you know, expert network that we come up with solutions. And the first step would be to say, yes, something is threatened, but our goal should not be just to say, you know, have a list. We should come up with solutions and propose these to the authorities, and whether we're successful or not, that's a different thing, but at least we have to come up with solutions, and then we can really, you know, push. And I think that is very important in connection, linking with advocacy. Thank you.
Yes. Paul, would you like to comment? Or, yeah.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Oh, well, that's good. So, yes, I think that there is potential for ANI to have a marvelous coordination role, and like I'm involved with the organisation. I'm on the board of the organisation in New Zealand that coordinates industrial heritage, and I'm also a member of the Australian one, and the Australians are interested in this initiative, I can say. So there, I think there really there's a coordination role, and there's been some work towards setting up working groups on topics, and I think that's a great idea. And I think that the working groups could then help shape agendas for more meetings like this one that are on cover over time. You cover a range of specific topics, and they can be some of them could be on theory, and then some are on case studies, because you learn. Those things are hand in hand, really. You learn from both of those methods, and see some in some of the earlier meetings we've had. Some of the topics we've talked about are, you know, communicating and promoting industrial heritage. Another one is involving youth. That's a very commendable. I think Taiwan's really showing the way and taking an interest in involving youth. We can learn from what you're doing there. Research into industrial heritage, the site management. That's a big part of my role here in New Zealand. Like I'm just at the moment working on an improved plan for one of our major gold mining sites here, and then we've already talked about like in India, the working on the identification of industrial heritage sites, and then setting up a database. So all of these things are examples of thematic topics. When you've got your database, working out which are the most valuable sites on that. Sustainability is a big element. Like if you can build up tourism, sustainable tourism numbers, that really the income and the public interest help to get your projects better funded. If you can think of a future use, that really helps. And yes, if you've got a site that offers a memorable and exciting a visitor experience that people go away and talk about. So all of those, I've just run through a list of topics that the working groups could work on. They could help shape agendas, and then I mean, this technology is really working.
Thank
That's
you.
why I wanted
Yeah.
to join tonight.
Yeah.
And I can see this being this is something I'm quite excited seeing everybody here and hearing this, making this start. So thank you.
Excellent, Paul, and excellent. And before I give the forum to Professor Shaway, there is a comment from Miles Goldthorpe for Kay about your comment that he is agree with you. Always being negative and citing problems wins no friends or arguments. The challenge is to have solutions to propose. So that's important point that you mentioned. Now I welcome Professor Shaway, who want to respond about advocacy. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Hasti. I just want to respond to what Kai's comment earlier. I think it's an excellent idea. And what Annie doing now is actually we try to more down to earth to build up some website. So for example, the first things we are doing some inventory. And I'm very happy to hear that Kai already did some inventory in Nepal, and Musha has do something in India. And I think we should collect all this information. So therefore we can use the Annie's website as a kind of platform to provide some classic idea. So can give solution and some proper concept about how to do in that. So this is the one first steps which Annie tried to do now. The second thing is currently we also already built up this 4 working group. So I think the 4 working group can work closely together. Maybe like Paul has been suggesting that people work together in certain different subjects. Like earlier, I have been mentioning in my presentation, like oil mining industry or coal mining industry or sugar industry. Those things are slightly more common in Asia, or as Dr. Japanese has been talking about, the water heritage is also one major thing. So we can make the people together, combine with this research and make things together. Yeah. So this is what Annie tried to do, and that's why we have this bulletin and journey. So I think in the future, gradually, all these things will be flourished. Then we can have more collaboration and project together. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Is there any comment, Professor Alex, probably, about the advocacy? No. I heard the idea about finding out the Asian ways of saving industrial heritage of Asia. All of you are familiar with the situations due to your expertise and your daily works. What are the most challenging to find Asian ways or paradigms about industrial heritage of Asia? Either from scientific ways or practical ways? Because if you agree or not, the scientific books or a lot of references that we have now in the world globally mostly are from Europe or the Western countries, because they started the movement. What about references from Asia? Yes, Kay.
Just a short comment. I think one of the things that I've come across in sort of the countries I've worked in, it's a question of ownership. And I think the question with a lot of the industrial heritage is it a local, local heritage? Is it linked to the communities? And quite often, you hear comments saying, yeah, but it's not our heritage, kind of a thing. And I think we need to understand that within the context. And I think in Nepal we have less of an issue, but maybe Mulshi can sort of talk about this whole colonial aspects in India and what that really means when you come to conservation. because in the end, we always want the local communities to benefit and be involved. And sometimes it's not, they're not linked to the heritage. And I think that is sometimes a bit of a thing that we need to work on and try to examine how that is linked to the communities and how the communities can understand that as being their own heritage. I think that's one thing that I've been trying to, grapple with and trying to understand.
Yes, yes. My experience is I'm involved in the water management heritage is to explore the indigenous knowledge and indigenous practices in water management, for example. And we found out very interesting informations about it. It's very rich informations actually that outside the colonial periods. From the speakers, would you like to comment? Or the commentators? What about the indigenous industrial heritage outside the colonial aspects? Otherwise, I will read the comments from Miles again that about the database. Shared data standards are important so that reliable comparison is possible as well as prioritized actions. So that's the comment from Miles. So I think in Asia, besides India and other parts, a few countries, we need to encourage more actions to make a database. Maybe we can talk more about this outside these discussions. We still have a few minutes left. Could I ask Professor Xia Wei and Professor Alex Jens to give your last words to the forum? In the first sections of this third ANIH forum. Please, maybe about 1 minute. Professor Xia Wei and Professor Alex Yen.
Okay, I just started. First of all, I have to thank Hasti for your very excellent host the meeting, and thanks all the audience and the participant and the commentator Kai to give a very good comment. And I suppose that we are not the only region concerning how to conserve our cultural heritage. We have a lot of friends outside these regions. So we need not only collaborate inside, but also we should share our knowledge and learn from the outside. So a platform is very important. And to the final, I would like to feedback about the database is very important. And also Miles highlight the standard. We don't have any standard, not only the cultural heritage side, but also the industrial cultural heritage. So how to prepare or revise the idea to link open data to set up our database is very important. In Europe, the Europeana project, they already rethinking about their standard. And how about Asian countries? So it's a big challenge. And I come from SIPA. I'm the vice president of SIPA. Also, last night, SIPA announced and also accepted by the scientific committee that we will revising our documentation and recording of cultural heritage sites principle of ICOMOS. And in that conclusion, we also mentioned we would like to invite more national committee and the International Science Committee to cooperate together, help SIPA to revising the standard of documentation. That means the database. Thank you very much.
Excellent, Professor Alex Yen. Now is Professor Xia Wei. Please, your last comment.
Okay. All right. So thank you for everyone's participation. This has been a great opportunity to meet everyone. And I think Annie has been grown up for 3 years old now. So it's still relatively young kids. So we definitely need a lot of effort and a lot of people to feed in more information for us. So I think in the future, we will gradually build up this database for everyone. And also on the other hand, I think currently we bring up this issue about the root, cultural roots of industrial heritage. I think this is the way to bring up, as Kyle was mentioned earlier, about linear connection with all the different sites and the story and so on. Not only just look at the industrial heritage as a building structure. We need more story and more people to involve with that. So I hope we can continue working on that to build up with the story, and each country of Asia, we can set up our own cultural roots and go through this to find our clear identity, and which is different with the Western conservation of industrial heritage. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Xiaowei. And before I close, there is an input suggestions from Mulsri Joshi from India that about the decolonialism and industrial heritage needs a new chapter of study within ANI, perhaps even a dedicated virtual sessions. So that might be an idea for the next discussions. I would remind everyone about the second sessions of the third forum of ANI at the 29th of October. So there will be a very interesting discussion, deeper and wider. So please join at the 29th of October. I would like to thank the organizations in Taipei, all the speakers, all the commentators and experts who join us today for the first sessions of the third forum. And I hope that we will continue our cooperations and keep up the good work. Yes. See you again. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.